All right, guys. So our class is working from home with massive success. So working from home has been something that has completely changed my life. And I'm so excited to share a lot of the things that has helped my productivity in working from home. So let's go ahead and get started. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first just share a little bit of my journey, how I got into real estate and how I started working from home and essentially how it's changed my life. And then we're going to jump right in. So I started in real estate in 2013. I was working for a moving and storage company back then full time. And I also had a moving business on the side. I had tried to go to school and then I ended up dropping out after 2 years. And I noticed when I was doing these moving jobs, which were really strenuous, I noticed there was always somebody in a nice suit or a nice dress coming in and then leaving, shaking the person's hand. And I said, I want to be them. So in November 2013, I passed my real estate exam. I licensed with the first broker to call me back. Not a great idea, by the way. It was a small office with no systems. I was winging it as a part-time agent. The brokerage closed down a year later, and then I almost quit the business in 2014. Then I ended up joining a large real estate company called Keller Williams in 2015. There, I read The Millionaire Real Estate Agent, which really changed my mindset on the business. And I noticed that a lot of the successful agents were going after listings. So it's what I started to do. So I built a habit of hitting the phones every morning before work. I was still working at my job. And by 2016, I was able to quit real estate and go in full time. During my time at Keller Williams, I sold over 175 properties, over 1.6 million in gross commissions. I founded my own real estate team, taught a bunch of classes, but I noticed that in order to make my business grow, I had to invest more and more money back into my business. So by the beginning of 2020, I was going to have my best year ever. My expenses were at an all-time high. I was excited. And then COVID hit like a meteorite from outer space, shocked the world. Half of my deals either fell apart or got postponed to the end of the year. I pretty much had to let go of all of my staff. I had to let go of my office, and I pretty much had to start over from square one. So it was a very stressful time for us all. So I started working from home, and in the beginning, I didn't really take it that seriously. I thought that I'd be back in the office in no time. And then I found out that my son was going to be born in April and that my wife had a baby on the way. So I said, you know what, I'm going to commit to this thing full time. And so I built out my home office and I decided to make working from home a full-time thing. Now, I've always worked out of the office my entire career. I always believed that working from the office is what made me successful. But after about 2 weeks, I really was able to build the habit. So notice that I wasn't in the office for 3 months. So I ended up leaving the company I was with, joining a virtual real estate company. And then I embraced working from home. My communication actually got better with my team members. So that's me dialing on one side on a cold call and having my team on a Zoom call on the other side. And my costs went down and my productivity went up, which I never thought would happen. 2021, my son was born. That nice home office that I had got turned into a nursery. And now my office is pretty much in the corner of my master bedroom until we get a bigger place. But I noticed that my productivity didn't go down. In fact, this year I'm on pace to sell more homes than I ever have before. I get to spend time with my family and be part of a cool, still go out and hang out with other realtors. And this all happened because of working from home. So I noticed right off the bat that I got 3 resources back when I started working from home. One is I got back more time. I didn't have to commute in the morning. I didn't have to spend time driving to work, spend time getting dressed to go to work. So I got a lot more time back, no more commutes. I noticed that I had more energy. I wasn't getting mad at other drivers on the road when I was on my way to work. In fact, work was just getting out of bed, doing my morning routine, and then going into the home office and getting started. And of course, I was saving a lot of money, which was really important to me. So these are generally the three things that you'll get back working from home if you do it the right way. Now, there are a lot of myths about working from home that a lot of people have, and that in fact, I had before I started doing it. One is that I wouldn't be able to focus and there are too many distractions. I had this home office here for over 3 years. It sat empty. My computer collected dust, and I always thought that I was going to get distracted. I was going to go and watch TV. My dogs were going to distract me, and I wouldn't be able to focus. And in fact, I realized that after doing it, there's actually just as many distractions in a work office environment. And there are actually a lot of other people I've spoken to that feel that they can't focus in the office. And focus actually comes with discipline and habit creation, not so much about where we work. That was a big shocker to me. I also believed that it was going to feel like I was working nonstop. I think a lot of people feel like working from home, you're working all day, you're always home, you're always working. When is it shut off? And the reality is that when I time blocked my work shift, there's actually a lot more personal time available working from home than being in an office, as long as we time block the time we're actually going to be working, rather than just let it happen all day. Another myth is that I wouldn't have the tools and the resources that I need at home. There's a printer, there's a scanner, there's an assistant at the office. And in fact, many home office supplies are actually really affordable. And in most careers, you can get everything you need at Staples or in fact, Amazon, which we'll talk about more later in the presentation. Another myth is I don't have a dedicated home office with a closed door and I can't work from home. I actually thought when my son was born that I said, what was I going to do, because I wasn't going to have a home office anymore. And in fact, with laptops, smartphones, and Wi-Fi, we could really turn almost anywhere into a workspace. I mean, whether I'm in the corner of my bedroom or I'm in the living room with the laptop, I always find a way to be productive. And I realize that home office is great, but it's not a necessity. So let's talk a little bit about the people who really, really love to work from the office. Me, a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I always believed that when I was at work, that was my work time. And when I was at home, I was not going to be working. And really the divide between personal time and work time was actually dependent on whether I was in the office or not. That was kind of my mindset. And so it was always at the office equals working and at home equals not working. And I realized that the reliance on a physical location creates some unnecessary commutes to the office. Here's an agent that had to go to the office to type up an offer to purchase. This was literally me 3 years ago. I would say, hey, I have to go to the office to type up this offer to purchase because I just will not do it from home, which can be very limiting, especially when you have to sit in traffic. Let's talk a little bit about some of the downsides of working in an office. One is that when we start working from home, we eliminate commutes. So commutes back and forth to work cost time, money, and energy. And in fact, the average American spends 27 minutes each way to commute to work. Unless you live a couple of blocks from the office. This was me last year when I was driving from White Plains to the Bronx at half hour each way. 54 minutes a day. So in addition to saving money and energy working from home, individuals can get back about an hour of a day of commute time, depending on where you work and how far you are. Dealing with traffic congestion and road rage can often result in commuter stress, which affects our mood and our work performance. A lot of times, if I yelled at someone else on the road who cut me off, I wasn't really in the best mood by the time I got to work. Even if I got over it, these little things here and there affect our energy because we only have so much battery power when we wake up. So we really want to make the most of it. Lunch breaks at the office. So work breaks at the office, I realized actually caused periods of time when I was stuck in the office and I was not working. Lunch breaks at the office often cause individuals to spend more money on meals when there are less and less healthy options. Taking breaks at home allow us to save money on food eat healthier, and have more options on how the break is spent. So we can use that break time to spend with our family. If we have an hour, we're taking a break, we could spend it with our family. We can get some chores done. We can walk the dogs. Other considerations, when I was working from the office, if I had a listing appointment at 4 o'clock, I would literally put a suit on, wear the suit all day long, and oftentimes that appointment would cancel and I would be in a suit all day. Working from home, I don't have to get dressed unless I have to leave the house, right? So suit, t-shirt and sweatpants, I mean, it's comfortable, it's easy. No water cooler conversations, no office equals no office drama, and more focus on productivity. And of course, working in comfort. We have more control over our environment. A lot of times people are working in offices where it might be a little too cold or there might not be enough sunlight, right? We can control these things when we work from home. Right? And last downside to working from an office is deprioritization of goals. So when a 100% commission-based worker like a realtor depends on the office for work, oftentimes the priorities around that agent shift to the collective goals of the office instead of their own, which sapped a lot of time and energy. That actually happened to me when I worked in a really big office. I got sucked into office events and things that happened, which didn't really affect my bottom line. And I could have spent that time on personal development with my family, on my business, but I kind of just spent it on other people's priorities. So office politics and chatter can become a huge distraction, especially when one is not a salaried employee. Office meetings that don't contribute to the overall productivity of the agent. So, you know, when they're talking about the colors of the drapes or the floors, that's not really affecting our income, right? Office events and functions could be great, but they also could take up personal time, which we could spend on with our family or on wellness. And so working from home and splitting work time with personal time allows us to give a complete priority towards dollar producing activities when we're working, and the excess time can be used with family, friends, or personal development. Now, working from home was all about building the habit for me. Before I started, I didn't want to do it because I didn't have the habit of doing it. And working from home is a mindset and a lifestyle. The productivity starts with discipline. And let's face it, it takes 60 days for most people to build a habit doing anything. You know, the first 60 days that you start doing it, you're probably going to get distracted. You're probably going to need an extra cup of coffee, and your focus is probably not going to be where it could be. But after you develop the habit, it feels just like it did every other time you went to work. Embrace it. Know why you're working from home, your goals in mind. Time block your work shift, time block that personal time, and stick to the schedule. So your schedule is actually what will separate your work life from your personal life, not the specific location that you're in. I always say schedule the personal and the family time first, and then plan around your work time. The family time, the personal time, the wellness, the gym, whatever it is for you is the most important thing. Put that in a calendar and then schedule your work around it. Let everybody at home know that you're working. If you're going to be having some time where you're going to be focused and you don't want to be bothered, let the people in your house know, hey, I'm going to be working for the next 2 hours. So if there's something you need, let me know now before I get to work. All right. Push through those first 2 months, build that habit, and know what you'll be doing during your work shift. That is so important, because if you don't know what you're going to be doing in your shift, sometimes you might just sit in front of your computer and then you end up going on Facebook, and then look, before you know it, you're on your way to the fridge and then the couch. Right? Prepare for your focus. So you really want to maximize your focus by minimizing the amount of times that you have to get out of your chair, right? So get the chores out of the way before your shift so that they don't occupy your mind. So you're not thinking about walking the dogs or preparing dinner while you're during your shift, right? walk the dog, shower, eat breakfast, drop the kids off, whatever you have to do, get it done, and then start your work. Right? Make sure that any necessities during your shift are within arm's reach before you get started. Whether it's a glass of water, cup of coffee, snacks, your cell phone, the more times you have to get up and grab stuff, the less productive you're going to be. So prepare all that stuff, prepare your desk, have a nice arrangement of items that you need within reach. So that way you can be as productive as possible. Avoid a cluttered, messy desk. Have a clean and organized workspace, because let's face it, if your desk is a mess, you're probably not going to want to sit there. All right. So the clutter can cause procrastination and cause you to avoid your workspace entirely. So let's talk a little bit about the tools of working from home and what tools will make us more effective and some of the tools that are necessities. So the first thing I want to say is that I'm going to piggyback on this clutter thing, because the clutter, in my experience, clutter is just the worst thing ever to me. And according to the National Association of Professional Organizations, clutter is the #1 problem for most businesses. The average worker spends 4 hours a week searching for papers. Now, that can add a lot of stress and frustration to the workplace, right? So embrace the cloud. I started storing all my paperwork digitally. So I just throw things in a box and I take a picture, I scan them, and they throw them in a box, and I never want to see the piece of paper again, right? Dropbox, Google Drive. These are excellent programs to use as your digital filing cabinet. So I use a program called Dropbox. Dropbox is pretty much a folder that syncs across all your devices, and you can literally drag your items in there and access them from anywhere. So everything I do is stored digitally. If I wasn't storing stuff digitally, I'd have a mountain of documents on my desk. It would drive me nuts. Electronic signature tools such as DocuSign and Dotloop, they eliminate the amount of paper we have to deal with altogether by having clients sign stuff remotely. Scan files. Once you scan them, you can throw them in a box and put them in storage. That's what I do. I scan it, I throw it in a box, and the box goes in storage. Once it's full, I never want to see the paper ever again. All right. So say no to clutter. That is really a foundational concept of working from home, or else, unless you like working from a messy desk. But I don't think anybody likes having a big mess in their house if they're going to be working from there. All right, so hardware needed to work from home. So to replace an office environment, there are a couple of basic pieces of hardware that we're going to have to use. A wireless printer. So you can literally get a DeskJet printer from Amazon for under $100. These are like the HP DeskJets. You can literally print from any device that's on the same Wi-Fi network as the printer. So these things are very affordable, and they're absolute necessity. You want to have a printer in your house. You don't want to be running the Staples or running to the office whenever you need to print something. A wireless headset. So when I got rid of my desk phone and I started using my cell phone and my computer to make phone calls, I realized that having a wireless headset was a big convenience. So when the phone rings, instead of picking up a handset and putting it to my ear, I pick up my headset and I press on that little button to answer the phone call. And it just allows me to walk around. I can do stuff, and I'm hands-free. So having a wireless headset with Bluetooth is definitely recommended. And having a smartphone is a huge plus. Now, if you don't have a home office, then I would say that having a smartphone is like an absolute necessity. When my son was born in April and I stopped working from my home office, I realized that I was actually working on my phone more than I was on my computer. The phone actually has the power to do most things that a computer does, whether it's email, notes. You can even print from your phone. I realized that if you connect your phone to the same Wi-Fi network as a wireless printer, oftentimes you can print PDFs and documents directly from your phone. That was like a total game changer for me. And of course, Wi-Fi connection with good speed. So if you're going to be saving some money not working from the office, it might be a good idea to reinvest some of that money into having a high speed internet connection so that you're not dropped on calls. Because let's face it, if you're going to be completely working from home, you're probably going to be doing a lot of video calls as well. So you want some good Wi-Fi service for that. All right, let's talk about replacing a desk phone with a soft phone. A soft phone is essentially a phone that calls from your computer. It uses your computer's IP to make phone calls. So by connecting your Bluetooth headset directly to the computer, you can use certain apps to make phone calls from the computer instead of relying on your cell phone and draining its battery, right? So using a soft phone often allows you to buy a phone number or get a free phone number that's used for your business instead of your desk phone number, and they can easily be forwarded to your cell phone. So some of the programs for a soft phone include Google Voice. If anyone's a professional, if you don't have a Google Voice number, I definitely recommend getting one. That allows you to get a free local number that can be forwarded to your cell phone. You can use it for text messages, phone calls. You can send text messages from your computer. You can call from your computer. Google Voice is great. Ring Central is more so if you have an organization. So if you have a group of people and you want a phone number that will ring on multiple lines at the same time, Ring Central is great for that. And Skype International is great if you have virtual assistants, if you have overseas employees that need a phone number. Skype International is pretty affordable. It's like $3 a month and they can call from anywhere in the world. Let's talk about making the most of Zoom. Zoom became a huge part of my life when I started working from home. Virtual leverage. So it's a common misconception that, people need to be in an office to efficiently train their employees. I always thought that I had to have my assistant working in the office with me. And the old way that I always did it, and what most people do, is have your assistant scoot over, look over your shoulder and watch you do things and take notes. And the reality is information's not really absorbed the best way, when you're just looking over someone's shoulder, right? Training individuals remotely can actually be done with Zoom. So the way I train all my people is I screen record what I'm doing and I talk about it as I'm doing it, and I create a video. Then I send that video to the employee I'm looking to train, and they can watch it over and over and over again. And so they don't have to be afraid to ask. I always feel like some of the assistants I've had in the past, when they didn't understand something, sometimes they were afraid to ask me to repeat myself. Maybe let me not ask to repeat myself because it might make me seem like I'm not absorbing info. With this, they can replay the video over and over and over again, which is really cool. Training individuals remotely, it requires us to document all of our systems. So ultimately, when I started making these training videos, I found that now I have this library of all my systems documented, and it made things easier. Every time I hired a new employee or a new agent, I had this library of videos that I already created for the former people, right? And if you're using virtual assistants overseas, first off, if you don't have a virtual assistant and you're looking to get leverage and you work from home, I definitely recommend it. Oftentimes, you can find someone in other countries like the Philippines or Central America who will do the same tasks as people in the United States for a third of the price. If you're going to be hiring virtual, it's definitely recommended that you have good remote training systems, because that's the only way you can train people, right? Let's talk about virtual consultation. So by replacing the in-office consultations with those done over video, I noticed that less of my people were canceling, actually. So when I used to have clients come into the office to meet with me, oftentimes the cancellation rate was a lot higher. People would have to get in their car, drive to my office, they have to spend the money on gas, they have to spend their time, and just answering a Zoom call or a FaceTime is just so much easier. So I started doing these things a lot when I started working from home. So virtual consultations are best over Zoom because we can share our screen, we can record, but FaceTime, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, we've used all these things. So video consultations ultimately are like a game changer. All right. So, of course, you can do these consultations either on your cell phone or your computer. We've actually started doing virtual home valuations. So when COVID was really bad last year, we were actually doing these valuations remotely where we had the homeowner walk us through the property with their phone and show us the condition. And we were actually evaluating properties that way. And of course, if you're going to be using a desktop computer to do these consultations, you need a webcam, you need a microphone. Most laptops have that stuff built in, but if you're using a desktop, you definitely want some of those things. Let's talk about setting up your workspace. So home offices are great. I loved my home office, but then it got turned into a nursery and now I'm in the corner of my bedroom, right? But I'm still super productive. So I'm going to talk about both ends, right? So let's start with the home office and setting up a home office, right? There's a few aspects to it. One is lighting. So 2018 study at Cornell, there was an 84% drop in headaches and eye strain when people started working in daylit, sunny environments, right? So the sun is good for us. It's good for productivity. If you can set your home office up by a window, then it's just going to be all the more helpful, right? Compact fluorescent lights. So fluorescent lights use less power, but there are studies that they actually cause more eye strain. And more eye strain means less focus and less time being spent in front of the fluorescent lights. So if you can avoid the fluorescence and go for LEDs or incandescent, the best is having a window. Fluorescent lights, there are studies, they cause headaches. Me personally, I've worked in an office for years with fluorescent lights. I didn't really notice it until I saw this study, and then I started noticing, wait a second, I do kind of have a little headache. So wall art and canvases. I'm a big fan of having art that inspires us, having canvases. If you have inspirational wall art, it's going to eventually have you look away from your computer and look up at it, which allows us to refocus our eyes. Right. So if we're staring at the computer for too long, sometimes it strains our eyes. And meaningful art and photos. These are also, by the way, these are all canvases that I had in my home office. Like this one here, which is the window to paradise. That was like super motivating to me. When I'd ever see that, I'm like, okay, my next vacation, it's go time. Let me get this work done. Right. So they're a nice reminder of our goals. So have some art, something meaningful. House plants. So plants are actually known to reduce stress and anxiety. I love having house plants around me. And actually, there was a study in 2010 in Sydney that found that when workers had plants around them, there was a 37% drop in anxiety, 58% drop in depression, 44% decrease in anger, and a 38% reduction in fatigue just by having plants around us. That kind of tells us something about us as human beings. We're kind of meant to be around nature, right? So plants can also boost creativity. There was a 2015 study that reported that offices with plants had workers that scored 15% higher for creativity. All right. So having some plants around us might help us, right? Here are some plants that create fresh, clean air. So according to NASA, plants can filter out chemicals from the air, and they actually reduce CO2 levels, especially in air-conditioned environments. So these are some of the great plants. These slides will be available for download, right? These are some great plants for working from home. Right? Aromatherapy. So one thing that I actually did this when I was working in the office too. This was something that always helped me. So I brought this habit from the office to my home, having an essential oil diffuser with a scent that you like while you're working. Let's face it, if you're going to have a nice smell and you like the smell of where you are, you're less likely to get up and walk away, and you're more likely to stay there and focus. I mean, these are a couple of them that are known for productivity. Me personally, I love the orange smell, and I put orange in there and I just sit there and work, right? These are a couple of little recipes. They're all available on the slides, but having a nice smell, nobody wants to work somewhere where you don't have a nice smell. So that's definitely something nice to have, right? Ergonomics. So this is also something I took with me from the office. Ergonomics is about designing your workstation to fit you and allow comfortable space. So there's a 2014 study. People that worked at standing desks were 45% more productive than those who were seated. Once I got a standing desk, I never went back from it, right? So I am a super fan of standing desks. Even though I'm sitting down right now, this is actually a standing desk, right? So standing desks are desks that they shift up and down. We have the option to either have them up if we want to stand, or down if we want to sit. There are desks entirely which move up and down, like this one on the left. There are standing desks that go on top of your existing desk, right? And then there are even ones for laptops. But I absolutely love standing desks. They've helped me in productivity. Let's face it, sometimes we just want to stand up, right? So instead of standing up and walking away from the computer, why not stand up and keep on working, right? Dual monitors. This is something I'm a huge fan of as well. If space permits, having dual monitors can help increase the productivity by reducing your desktop clutter and giving you more space to work with. Once I went dual monitor, I never went back from that either. It just helps, especially if you're doing video calls and Zoom calls with people, the ability to have your call on one screen and have information on the other screen. For me, that was golden, not to have to minimize and look for stuff. It just drove me nuts. So this is here. This was me working from home, video on one side, cold calling on the other, and then of course a beer in my hand, which is another huge benefit from working from home as well, right? Yeah. All right. A pet to keep you company. So studies have shown having a pet can reduce stress and anxiety. So in my home office, I had my little chameleon, which would sometimes want to come out, and I had my dogs too. And that was something that, especially, you know, when I'd have a really rough conversation with an unhappy customer, you know, being able to pet a dog afterwards, at least for me, calmed me down a little bit, let me go back to work, stop thinking about my issues. All right. No home office, no problem. All right. So I went from not having a home office to having one, and then not having one. So you can really work from anywhere. Your workspace doesn't have to be your home office. It can be a dedicated space, whether it's a section of your home, the backyard, multiple locations that can change. And being mobile actually gives you more flexibility in choosing where you work, right? So if you're going to choose an area to work at, you don't have a home office, try to find somewhere with natural sunlight, like backyard, or maybe by a bright window, a quiet space without noise. So in a busy home, you may want to choose a time of day that tends to be quieter and time block your work sessions around there, especially if you're going to be out working in the living room or working in the dining room. You want to get to work when it's quiet, during the downtime, when the tide is low. All right, time block around that downtime, and make sure that wherever you set down, you have your Wi-Fi coverage. That's really important. All right. And if no Wi-Fi is available, well, now we have mobile hotspots. Everybody has a smartphone. All right. It's never been easier to work from your mobile phone. I gotta say, like, my office now, even though it's in the corner of my bedroom, it's really on my smartphone. I mean, I do everything from my phone now. So smartphones have most of the same capabilities of a computer from the palm of our hand, right? And we can take it anywhere. Right? So if we get really good at working from our phone, I mean, we can work from wherever we want, let's face it. Google Docs has an app for Word documents, spreadsheets, PowerPoints, all these things that we rely on our computer for. You can do it from your phone. You know, I used to go to the office to type up my offers to purchase. Now I do them on my cell phone. All right, Dropbox and Google Drive. We can access our digital filing cabinet from our phone. And mobile scanners such as Cam Scanner or Adobe Scan, we can scan documents and turn them into PDFs. So whenever I get a signed paperwork, a signed listing agreement, whatever it is, I bring it home, I take a picture of it with my phone, I scan it, and then I throw it in that box, and I never want to see it again. Right? So we can print from our phone or our Android as long as it's on the same network as our wireless printer, which was really cool. All right, so working from your phone allows you to work from almost anywhere. right? Conclusion, letting go of the reliance on a physical location will inevitably give us more time, energy, and money back. The comfort factor can also lead to increased productivity. If we're comfortable with what we're wearing in our location, we might just be more productive, right? When working remotely, we're replacing a lot of office tools and systems with technology. So if we're going to make working from home our thing, then we need to understand that technology is important, and the pieces of technology that are really important, we need to learn how to use them, especially Zoom. All right. It's important to know why we're working from home so we can make the best use of our resources that are saved by doing so. The wonders of remote work really show themselves when we begin living the life that we were unable to live before, right? So we want to know why we're working from home. We don't want to be working from home and constantly thinking, oh, when am I going back to the office, right? We want to know why we're doing it and the purpose. Constantly seek new ways to be more efficient in our work. Since I started working from home, every day I'm looking for shortcuts. I'm looking for ways to do things more efficiently so I can get more time back. Once I got a taste of getting time back, it's really become my thing. Like I'm always looking for more efficient ways to do things. Personal time and family time always come first. So working from home above all else gives us time that we can spend with our family or time developing ourselves, whether you want to do hobbies or go to the gym or whatever. So let's really prioritize that stuff and use that time that we got back to spend on our personal life. All right, what can you do now? So there are so many things that busy office workers say that I used to say that I wish I could do, and I don't have the time, money, or energy to do. Here are a few examples. So I always said I didn't have time to go to the gym. All right. When I started saving an hour each day on the commute, I was able to start going to the gym 5 days a week off the bat. And I always said I never have time to do it. I'd come home from the office, even though it was like 7 o'clock and the gym was still open. I was just drained and I didn't want to do it. More time with family, of course. More money to invest back into our business or lifestyle, whether it's the money you're saving on gas or money you're saving on office, whatever it is. You get to do more of your hobbies, go on more vacations. And I say vacations because once we get used to remote work and doing things without relying on a physical location, it gets easier to do things from wherever we are, right? Especially if we get used to working on our phone or working with a laptop, I mean, we can get stuff done from wherever, right? Greater flexibility of your home's location. If you're not relying on an office, you don't have to live near an office and you get more flexibility on where you live. All right. So that sums up today's training. There are slides and recordings which can be found on upgradetheagent.com. So if you want access to any of these slides or recordings, my website, upgradetheagent.com, it's free to sign up. Just go ahead, go there, register. You'll get access to all of these things in the members area. And it is 100% free. You just go to the site, put in your information, you'll get an email with a password, which you can change or not, and you can go ahead and register. And now I am going to open it up to Q&A. So I hope you guys got value out of this training. And now we are going to open this up to questions. Yes.
Hi, Brian.
Hi.
Okay, obviously it was more of a session for real estate agents. You chose the wrong career. You should have been human resources. It would have been a wonderful round table. You taught me a lot. You really did, and I appreciate that. You really taught me a lot. There's a few things that you said I didn't even consider. One of my blocks being, although I had my own business once upon a time, I was not focusing on other things going on around me, which were irrelevant, impertinent. I was young, let's party till you die. You know, the Ramones, I don't want to be buried. Okay, but seriously, all jokes aside, Okay, what if you live in an environment that you just can't predict what may happen, nor can you afford your own office? How would you work around that?
That's a great question. So if you're in kind of like an unpredictable environment, then I think that what you may want to do is you may want to see if you can start noticing some trends, right? If you can just kind of examine what tends to happen throughout the day. Is there certain days of the week where things might be a little more down? Like, let's face it, things happen out of nowhere and we can't control them. But if we start noticing trends in our daily life where we might get some more quiet time, whether it's 10 a.m. on Thursdays and Wednesdays, and we start noticing these things, then we can start planning around those times. And things may come up. I mean, things always come up eventually in life. But if we start looking at some trends in our personal life, we'll start to notice that on certain days, those quiet times may just happen around the same time and the same day of the week over and over again.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Awesome,
I
thank
have a
you.
few other questions, but I don't remember what they are now because I should have written everything down. There was
No
a
worries.
thing-
If you remember them, feel free to type them in the chat box.
I certainly will. Thank you so much.
Of course. All right. Questions?
Brian,
Hey, Lavonda, how's it going?
it's going good. How are you?
Thank you. Doing wonderful.
Good. I just want to give a little history about how I met Brian. Brian was working at U-Haul when my father was getting ready to relocate from the Bronx to South Carolina. And it's just amazing. And I'm so proud, of the work that you've done and where you're at in your real estate career. It's amazing.
Thank you.
This has been very helpful. I started out with Keller Williams as well. And and that was in 2011. And I've pretty much been working from home since 2012. I think the biggest obstacle I had then is that, my family didn't realize, like, oh, you're not really working. Like, yeah, I'm really trying to work. Like, I'm really trying to get this. So I'm gonna need y'all to leave me alone. So over the years, it's gotten better where there's less interruptions, working from home. And, having been in the corporate world and not having that water cooler talk and the drama that comes with it, I found that, working from home worked better for me than, being, in the office. And it's become easier. Like each year it's gotten easier. You definitely, made mentioned some things that I had not thought about that I think will just, only continue to improve, working from home. So this was a great session. I hardly ever speak out on Zoom calls, but this was definitely great information.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm glad you got some good info from it. Awesome. Awesome. All right. Questions, anyone? Evelyn. Hey, Evelyn, I can't really hear you. I think you're muted. Or your microphone might be off. No, can't hear you, no.
I think it's our volume.
Your volume. Evelyn, if you go to your settings and you look at the microphone, yeah, you could type your question in the chat box if you want.
Brian.
Yes.
Do you mind if I share that, like, I'm your Atlanta referral agent? So if there's
absolutely,
any
of course,
in the office.
Absolutely. Lavonda is
Lavonda,
my
I want to meet you. I'm moving to Georgia next year, girlfriend. I'm going to Rome, Georgia. I already know where I want to live. I like home.
There you go.
Yeah,
Awesome.
so we'll connect somehow or another.
Yes, Lavonda is my go-to in Atlanta. So she's a wonderful agent if anyone's moving down there.
I'm Rome, Georgia. I already know where I'm moving to. Rome. Hello, Rome.
All right.
Not Italy.
So, Evelyn, I see that, all right, real quick, Glenn has to go. Glenn's my title guy. If you need title, Glenn is an excellent title guy. Glenn, great to have you. All right. So, Evelyn, I see that you asked about the desktop computer. Can you recommend a good desktop? So, great question. So, I actually am still using the desktop that I used when I was at the office, which is a Dell. I basically went to Best Buy and I looked at the computers and I bought a Dell desktop. So honestly, I would say just buy a new one. And every now and then, one of the most important things is that you do kind of like a memory wipe on that computer. If you're getting a Windows computer, like a Dell or whatever it is, every 2 years or so, I restore the computer to its factory condition, because as we browse websites and stuff, what happens is our computer gets slower and slower over time. And eventually we're wondering, we're like, why is this thing just not, this is not the computer I bought, right? But if we back up all of our important stuff on that digital filing cabinet, we use Dropbox, we use Google Drive, and we back up all of our stuff, we can take our computer and we can do a factory reset. All the new computers have them, and I find that my computer performs like a brand new one every time I do that. So I would say get a Dell, get an affordable, get a PC. Apples are great too. They're a little more pricey, but I've always used a Windows, and I just factory reset it once it gets slow. Awesome. All right. Any other questions, guys? All right. Well, thank you guys so much for attending. I really appreciate you. And all these slides and all this stuff is going to be available. It is upgradetheagent.com. So I'm going to put that in the chat, and I will also send everybody an email there. So just go to upgradetheagent.com, register. You'll get an email with a temporary password. It's free. Once you log in, all of my content will be there. I also have great training videos and scripts and stuff on there too. But as soon as you log in, you'll see a big box that'll say work from home with massive success, and you'll be able to watch the replay and download the slides. Everything will be up by tomorrow morning, but I'll send an email to everybody as well.
Wonderful.
Thanks, Brian.
Wonderful.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it. Thank you so
Brian.
much. Have a great evening.
You too.
You